But right now it's time for book chat, and we're reviewing Only Mad Hires Get Married to the Company's Vision by Ifeoluwa Ario Agbaje. Now, he's a two-time founder and award-winning strategic communications leader, and also the co-founder and CEO of Gritty PR. He's building AI solutions to amplify brands and leveraging expertise gained from leading global partnerships at investing and supporting other brands and communications at PESA. Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
So right now we're talking Only Mad Hires Get Married to the Company's Vision.
Absolutely.
It's quite an interesting title, right? Because I'm sure when anyone sees it, like, what do you mean? I'm not mad. So are you telling me I have to be mad to get hired? But tell us about this.
Okay, Only Mad Hires Get Married to the Company's Vision. It's quite a rich and metaphorical title, It talks about being married to the company's vision, and of course the mad hires. Like, you must be someone that you are quite passionate about the company's vision, that you want to go all out, and there are a lot of intricacies involved in that. I looked at a lot of thematic focus areas like psychological safety, like empathetic leadership, like the behavioral patterns of employees, of talents, when they work in different startups. And this came as a result of different stories that we've seen from a lot of startups, from a lot of businesses.
So that was the
and
inspiration
corporates.
you had
Yes,
to write
that came
this book.
from these, and a lot of people sending stories, and I tried to put it into a work of fiction that, yes, these are realities of people right now in our present time and age, and we need to talk about these things. We need to talk about the horrible bosses. We need to talk about the burnouts of talent. We need to talk about how companies are managing retention, burnout, and the like. So that's why Only Mad Hires Get Married to the Company's Vision. It's quite an important conversation we should be having right now. Yeah.
The truth is, you spend a lot of time in the office because that's where you get money for your livelihood.
Absolutely.
So having that safety there and knowing how to navigate it is important. So the conversation first is important, but a lot of people might say, you know what, this might be for the CEO or the top level management, because they're just looking out for the people that they want to get hired. How about those people?
Okay, interestingly, the book talks to different categories of people. It talks to founders, entrepreneurs, owners of businesses. It talks to employees, talents, people that work in these companies. It talks to investors. Before you put your money and invest in a company, you want to also know what's the culture of that company. Who are the people you are funding? We are not just funding the idea, you are funding the visionaries, the drivers of the vision, the owners of the business. So it talks about people and culture, the HR managers that are building talents in these different enterprises. So everybody has a piece of their own journey in the pages of this book.
That you can grab from it.
And you can be able to pick the learnings and the insights there, essentially.
And I think it's quite, important that you even spoke about the people, the visionaries, for this, because you hear a lot of startups that they start and they've used seed funding, they've used people's money, and before you know it, they crash the company to the ground.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times they probably spent that money for their own personal gains. But having to know that even as an investor, you can read this book, you can get something out of it. As an employee, you can get something out of it anyway, as long as you're working.
Of course, as long as you're in the corporate space or in the startup space, even SMEs, enterprises, everybody find a piece of their own journey there to see that how can I actually build my company to be globally relevant, even putting into the lens of a local context into perspective, and of course making sure that you are growing talents. People can be able to see what's their growth trajectory like, can be able to see that, okay, their values alignments, that as a talent in this company, my value aligns with the vision of this company. And also, talents are also coming to the realization that they don't have to also lose their sense of identity. There are a lot of people that, even when you are committed to that company's vision, you get lost in the process and you forget that there is your career progression. There's also the company. So you must be able to draw that line, set good boundaries, and be able to know that, yes, this is what you are committed to, and these are boundaries that the owners of the business or the business itself must respect, even while you are committed to upholding the vision of that company.
Beautiful. Now let's talk about the book itself, the contents, because the first thing that grabbed my attention, aside the title, is Baptism by fire. I said, which one is baptism by fire again?
Yes.
This is like the first part of the book. And under baptism by fire, you have different, different chapters, which is the hustle, the toxic king. I'm sure the toxic king, of course, is, you know what it is.
Course.
And the safe haven, the empathy lesson. But tell us about baptism by fire.
So baptism by fire, that's the part 1 of the book. And you already talked about the 4 chapters on that. So essentially, you're talking about the hustle. We glorify hustle in this part of the world, and we forget that there needs to be, there's the heart, there is the hustle. You also need to be able to draw that dichotomy to say, okay, you are not losing your sense of identity or sense of worth in the process. There's also the toxic king. There's a lot of conversations about horrible bosses. There's a lot, like we've seen a lot of trends in previous times and the likes. And this is a particular conversation that I was also bringing into perspective in that chapter. There is the safe haven, like there is also another perspective to a company that truly respects boundaries of talents. A company that also respects that this is the vision, we're going all out, and we're also respecting the talents driving this vision. So that's the baptism by fire. And the empathy lesson, of course, empathetic leadership. We need to also put into perspective that we need to ensure that there's humanity in what we are doing. Like people, these are people, real human beings working and driving a vision. So that's what's brought about the first
baptism
part of
by
the
fire.
baptism by fire.
Okay, so next we have the seed round, and of course the heart must lead, beyond the pitch. And when I saw beyond the pitch, I can totally relate, because a lot of times we have these ideas, and then when we want to pitch it, it's almost like, oh, I have everything to be right, X, Y, Z, dot all the I's, cross the T's. But then when it's now having to even do the work, we're not very immersed into it. So talk to us about beyond the pitch.
So beyond the pitch, it came as a result of I've been able to pitch. I found myself pitching to a lot of investors about companies I've worked for in the past, and I see what the reality is when you're in front of investors and they're asking you real questions. Why should we give you money?
Dragon's Den.
You know, they're asking you questions. You also need to be able to sell the vision. So it takes someone, and in such forums, I'm not even the owner of the business, but I took ownership of the business to be able to sell it as much as the owner of the business would sell the business itself. So beyond the pitch, are you actually solving a problem? Is the investor seeing value? Is there alignment? There's what we call investment thesis with different venture capital firms and companies. You must be able to see that whatever value proposition you are bringing forward aligns with the investment thesis of that investor or the venture capital firm or the angel investor or the private equity, if that's the case. So that's what brought about that chapter on the beyond the pitch. Are you actually solving a problem? Is there alignment between the stakeholders involved in this conversation?
There's another one that's in the fourth, will I say the fourth bracket, which is the product launch. But it says, fake it till you make it. And we know what happens, especially when they talk about the lucky big boys and big girls. And they tell you you have to fake it till you make it. Even if you don't have it, you have to just put up a front. Do you think that also works in business? So
there are a lot of companies today that they are not a true representation of what you see them on social media or what the stories they've told, the narratives they've sold. That's not actually the true picture of what goes on in those companies. So what you've seen in this body of work is a collection of short stories that captures the realities of what is going on in the different businesses, corporates, particularly startup companies. And we're bringing it into perspective, like drawing attention to it, driving conversations, making people realize that, yes, we need to put a lot of attention on how we are building relevant businesses and we are solving real problems relevant to our own contextual situation here in Africa, here in Nigeria.
I love the fact that you had to write a book like this because you were putting the spotlight on the workforce. Now, a lot of times, most books that you read is always about how to grow your business, how to, get to the Fortune 500.
How to sell to Nigeria.
Yes, exactly, or how to make money quickly with 10 naira. There's that, but no one has really spoken about the people who make these things happen. So it's amazing that you had to dedicate your time and, of course, write a book like this. What do you want people to get from this book?
All right, thank you so much. I want people to be able to, I think I've said this consistently this morning. I want people to be able to find a piece of their own journey in the pages of this book. There's a lot going on within the startup ecosystem. There's a lot going on within the private sector, even the public space, within the SMEs and the likes. Yeah. Everybody will find a piece. Even someone that is a founder today was once a talent, was once an employee. He will find his own piece of his own journey in the pages of this book that, oh, there was a time, this was my reality. Now that I am the one driving the affairs or a decision maker, how am I making a difference? How am I making sure that the status quo that I didn't like when I was a talent does not remain the same? So these are the conversations and the narratives I intend to drive, and I want people to be able to see. And the conversation continues. It doesn't end there. Of course, there are a lot of people challenging me already that there needs to be a volume 2. Like, there are a lot of stories that needs to be captured,
yes,
you know? Yeah. So,
do you think there will be a volume 2?
Of course, it's in perspective.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Such an amazing book for anyone who is a founder, an entrepreneur, or even an employee. Wherever you find yourself in the workplace or the marketplace, you should definitely need to get this book. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
And it was nice having a chat with you.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine.
All right, there's still so much on Wake Up Nigeria. Right now, we're going to play a package for you. We have an amazing package, Spoon Artistry. And since we're talking about Artsy Thursday, why don't we see this?